Hello, everyone. It's 5:32 Eastern Daylight Time. It's Monday, and welcome to your webinar this evening. My name is Giovanni Gaudelli, and I will be your facilitator this evening. Let me spell my name for you. Giovanni, G like George, I-O, V like Victory, A-N-N-I, Gaudelli, G like George, A-U-D like Daniel, E-L-L-I. Before going any further, allow me to wish you a wonderful evening and a magnificent week. I will take care of the logistics right off the bat. First of all, you will be receiving an email over the next 24 hours with a link for a survey asking you for your feedback. If you could take a few minutes to do that, that would be very much appreciated on our part. Also, with your invitation, when you registered, you should have received a link for a participant guide. You do not have to have it with you to follow along with this webinar. If you have it with you, great. If not, well, you can take a look at it when you have the time and you can decide whether you're going to download it and print it or not. I just want you to know that the participant guide is just a copy of the PowerPoint slides that we're going to be going through with little spaces next to each slide for you to write some notes. Also, this session is being recorded and will be available to you or anyone that you'd like to listen to. All you need to do is to get in contact with your senior living residents, whoever is in charge, depending on which residence you're associated with. And they'll give you the details on how you can do that, and it'll be available for 6 months. I do recommend, however, even if you don't have your participant guide, that you at least have a pen with you and a blank sheet of paper. There's quite a bit of content in the webinar here, and I just want you to go away at the end of the webinar with some simple stuff to put into practice in line with today's subject to be able to stay mentally strong. We're talking about personal losses here, but it could be about anything else. We did a similar webinar last week. So some of the items that I shared in last week's webinar will come up again because they're very basic things that you need to put into practice when staying mentally strong, no matter what, whether it's a personal loss or whether it's an illness that you yourself have or you're just going through anxiety or stress for any particular reason. Also, during the webinar, at any point in time, please go ahead and ask me questions by using your chat or your Q&A tabs. So you just whip them over to me. When you have a question or you may have a comment that you'd like to share, I keep an eye out for that because that's very important. I want to make this as best as possible for you. So I will do my best to cover all the items. However, if there's specific things you'd like to ask in line with today's subject, just go right ahead and I will treat that question for you. So without any further ado, let's get zooming. Our objectives. By the end of this webinar, you will be better able to recognize the reality of your present situation and what you can do. Now, I imagine you already know the reality of your present situation, okay? The key is we're going to look at what are some of the things that you can do maybe to make a tough situation a little bit better. How to use effective coping strategies to stay healthy and mentally strong. That's where I'm going to spend most of the time because that's what I believe is going to be the most helpful to you. So some quick tactics to immediately boost your resilience, how to stay strong through self-management of your thoughts and feelings, and to create and maintain some daily habits that help you to cope. I will not tell you what those daily habits are. You're going to choose them because everybody's context is different. But as a result of the stuff we're going to discuss together, that hopefully you'll be able to create some daily habits that suit your particular situation. If necessary, how to support your family while in its isolation. How to stay educated and manage the impact of constant media and news. Whew. And of course, managing our worries about finances and or family needs. So let's deal with the particular thing. There are all kinds of losses, okay? And, we're just listing a few. And you didn't have to wait for COVID-19 to actually suffer some of these losses, right? I mean, and even after COVID-19, we're going to have to deal with these type of situations. It could be the death of a family member, the loss of a close friend, normal routines. So you're losing the routine that you were used to, that you loved, because the COVID-19 now has catapulted a lot of people in working from home. For some people, it's probably the best thing that happened to them. And for others, it's very, very, very stressful. So, anything that kind of disrupts our routine sometimes, so there is a loss of something. Loss of a in-person social contact. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of that, right? With physical distancing. And now with maybe a second wave that's kind of showing up and so on. So we might have to go back to being a little bit more careful with the context that we have. It could be a serious illness of a loved one. So, they're still there, but, there's a loss there. The person, you may not be able to be in contact with them as normal as it used to be, or you might not be able to do things with that person like you used to be able to do. So there's still a loss there. It could be a stressful relationship breakup. And this can happen to anyone. I mean, it could happen to people who are been in a partnership. It could be with our kids who might be going through a stressful relationship breakup. Of course, death of a colleague, loss of some of our own physical abilities or someone else's. So these are some of the different varieties of losses. The loss of a job, right? That type of thing, or whether it's, even if it's temporary, that can create a lot of grief. So what is grief? Well, grief is the physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual reaction to any significant loss. Going through a grieving process is absolutely necessary. There are other times, like moving away from a familiar community, illness, or the loss of a dearly held dream, or some of the circumstances which can trigger grief. And there's not one size fits all. This is what is so, so important, okay? In one family, for example, you might, both, a couple might lose a parent. Well, not both of them are gonna react the same way. Between brothers and sisters, they lose their dad or their mom. Well, not everyone's going to react the same way. And this is very, very, very important, because sometimes we unwillingly in trying to help someone, just because we might be going through it a little more easily. Well, we unconsciously put pressure on the other one, like our sister, for example, to get over it. Okay, so we're saying, look, okay, it's done, and I'll find a way. And we might do things to actually make things worse. So we're going to be chatting about that. But the key is, every one of us is going to have to make it through, and there's not one specific way to do it. And that is so, so key. So we need to accept that for ourselves, and we need to accept that from those around us, that not everyone's going to react the same way to any one particular loss. Now, I was sharing with you here the example of a death in a family, but someone loses a job. Well, not everyone's going to react the same way there too. Some people say, well, look, you got all kinds of competencies. Don't worry about it. You're going to be able to find something else. Yeah, well, maybe that person is extremely, extremely stressed about that. So maybe what we should do with that person is just listen, listen, let them vent, because they got to make it through. They got to go through that grieving stage before they can actually start actually fixing the situation. Now, here's the 5 stages of grieving. Now, the key here is that this looks pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you got shock, denial, you have anger, then you have bargaining, where you're trying to go back and forth. Okay, what is it? Should I do? What is it? Then, of course, you have sadness. The key here is the following, is that we want to get to the stage of acceptance, okay? And what's going to help you in the stage of acceptance is for you at some point in time, and that's what I'm going to help you with, is to make choices. Because when human beings are making choices, you are feeling in control. When you're not making choices, you are what we refer to as enduring, which makes you feel out of control. And that creates all kinds of very, very, very difficult emotional states. So ideally, you want to get yourself into some stage where you're actually choosing things that you're doing, that you're going to do according to the context, the reality that you're in, the level of grief that you're in, and so on. But you're choosing. And choosing means it's going to help you through. So this looks pretty linear here, but this is not what grieving looks like mostly, actually. It's not like this. It looks mostly like this, gang, okay? Which means we kind of, we make it to, we're starting to feel a little bit better, things seem to go, and then boom, for whatever reason, you know, we have this souvenir or something, or someone mentions something or whatever, and I don't know, it was the wrong thing on the wrong day at the wrong moment, and boom, we get back down again, you know, type of thing. All right, and then phew, we pick ourselves up again, and things start going a little bit better, and so on and whatever, and kind of goes down. So this is important. Remember this squiggle, okay? Because it's important for you to tell yourself, you know something? It's okay if today you know you're not like 100%. Okay? Now, my suggestion is not that you are not going to do anything about it, but just to say, okay, you know something? It's okay that I'm not 100% today. All right? So maybe I need to just grieve, but I need to do something, and you're going to choose what you're going to do. But this is the reason I'm sharing this with you is also because you might be in the company of someone who's grieving. Okay, so it might not even be you. So you need to be able to make this person feel like it's okay if they're like in the like more like near around here at any point in time. The key is we're going to try our best to kind of get back up here. And it's not like boom, 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 and automatically you're there. No. Okay. And the time frame of on top of that between when it starts and when it actually becomes acceptance, well, between one individual and the other could be totally different. In some people, it could be like, I don't know, a week, boom, it's over and done with. Others, it could be months. Okay. They're getting there, they're getting better, and so on and so forth. So we need to understand that that's okay to do that. And this is probably what that's going to look like. Okay. In some cases, it might go up, and then down, and then up right away. And then the acceptance is there. Maybe because they prepared themselves for the situation a little bit better. It wasn't something that happened out of the blue. So maybe it was that situation is a little easier. In another situation, well, it was kind of all of a sudden you get some bad news. And there's a loss, and it's a big surprise, so you couldn't prepare for it. So the grieving could be much more complex. Okay? And again, I do remind you, if you have any questions, just to go for it. Okay, gang? So some of the myths, all right, which I've already shared with you, okay? That grieving has linear stages. Absolutely not. It's the squiggle. It's more of the squiggle, okay? All right? Grief is something to be overcome. Well, not necessarily, okay? Ultimately, you're going to accept and overcome. But it's not that you have to, boom, you got to get over it. No, everyone's going to have to find a way to go through that grieving stage. And now some people, they may have emotionally, they might even have to cry a lot. Okay, if that's the case, depending on what the situation. In some cases, maybe the anger might last a little bit longer. Others, they're gonna take to reading. Others are gonna take to jogging. Others are gonna take, but you're gonna have to kind of make it through to ultimately get to that level of acceptance. Don't talk about it, it will go away quicker. Oh my God. If there's one thing that I would recommend is please talk about it. That being said, be the one that they can talk to. Okay, because one of the reasons people don't talk about it is they don't feel as if there's someone there that's willing to listen. You see, you need a listener if you're going to talk. Okay, so if everybody becomes a great listener with no judgment and just lets the person talk, well, then automatically at some point in time, whenever we need to talk, whoever that may be, well, we're going to feel a lot more comfortable about talking. And talking is amazing because we're identifying, we're bringing it, we're putting it on the table, we're venting it, and it'll ultimately help us get through that squiggle, right, to acceptance, where we can start making choices. All right, that is the key. Once grief is expressed, it doesn't come back. Absolutely not. I mean, I can tell you, I was gonna share this story with you, but I'll share with you later. But I had to accompany, well, not I had to, I accompanied my mom for a whole year my mom went through colon cancer and was operated and the whole kit, and things were supposed to be okay after that. Well, they were okay for 3 months, and then boom, it came back, and now, of course, unfortunately, it was starting to spread, and but they were still trying to heal it. So now she needed chemotherapy, and so I would accompany her every single week to the chemotherapy and so on. And I would find a way to laugh on my mom. So you're going to see laughter as an important thing, and so on. And you know, that whole 1 year ended up being a very therapeutic year because my mom and I got even closer than we ever did. We found a way to make it enjoyable during that 1 year and so on. And yes, after, you know, when she passed away, it wasn't as tough to take because there was kind of that preparation period. Like, so we kind of knew it was gonna happen. We had the chance to kind of say everything we had to say and nice, and we felt good and so on, and she herself felt better. However, even today, this is like what, 2012 was when my mom passed away. Even today, the odd time, you know, we'll be talking about something, and oh, I get that little, you know, my throat starts kind of getting tough. I get to start my eyes start tearing a bit, but it's just because I get some maybe, you know, nice memories and so on or whatever. So it kind of comes back a bit, and but it's kind of good. It's therapeutic because yeah, I think of the good memories. It goes from there. So it's not an over and done situation. No one can help you with it. It's all up to you to pull yourself up. Well, definitely. Okay, so here's 4 words I want you to remember. Okay, please write that down. Okay, these 4 words. I need your help. These simple 4 words are so important, and yet my observation through my profession is that people don't say it enough times because they create self-guilt. It's like, well, I got to find a way to make it through. I mean, come on. And so, no, just go. And it doesn't have to be with a professional. It could be to your best friend or a family member, whatever the situation is. It doesn't have to be death. It could be you lost your job or loss of whatever. Okay, I need your help. You're going through a tough relationship breakup. Go speak to someone and say, I need your help. Now, here's the good news. When you ask someone for help, you're actually making their day also. Because when you ask someone for help, what you're saying by not saying, okay, is that you think that their advice is good. You trust them. You're bringing up their self-esteem. You are making them very credible in their own eyes because of the fact that you actually went and said, I need your help. Okay? All right? Now, if someone comes to you and does that and says, I need your help, your job is to shut up and listen. Okay? Zero judgment, and just listen. And what you say is, how can I help? That's it. And you just go on. And then you just keep asking questions. Okay? And if you're going to give them a suggestion of what maybe could help them get out of the situation, because obviously they came to you for help, do it through a question because it's a lot easier. So for example, I'm just going to throw something out like this. Okay? Let's pretend your friend comes to you and so on, and you want to recommend to your friend that she or he do some yoga or some meditation. Okay? Right? Because you know that works and so on and so forth. So here's how the not to, and here's how the to. One way is to suggest it directly. It says, you know, you should do some yoga. I'm sure that would help. Now that's not negative, is it? But what happens is the person might say, yeah, okay, all right, but they might not ever do it just because they don't want you to feel bad. But now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to suggest it through a question. So we'll take the same suggestion and look at the difference. Well, what if you did some yoga? How would you feel about that? So you're always leaving it to them so that they are constantly tapping into their own resources. And if they don't like it, they can say, you know something, yoga is not for me. And you know what you say? Cool, I understand that. That's cool. It's not for everybody, you know? What else? What do you think could make you feel better? But again, question, okay? All right? The reason you ask questions is because two things are happening. One, you're helping them tap into their resources. And number two, you're putting yourself back in listening mode, okay? And that in itself is the best thing you can do. It's extremely, extremely, extremely therapeutic. So please, I need your help. Now, the flip side of I need your help is you're seeing someone and and you'd like to help in their grieving. So you go see them and say, Giovanni, I've noticed recently that, and so on. How can I help? Not can I help, because can I help is a yes, no. And they might say, oh, no, that's okay, everything's cool. But if you say, how can I help? Well, the chances of them suggesting something are higher because the question you asked them was not a yes, so question. It says, how can I help? It says, well, I don't know right now. And then maybe you say, well, what if I did this? Would that help? What if I did that? You see how we're going back to question, listening, question, listening. Some healthy perspectives, grieving after a loss. It's not something that's boom, boom, right? It's not like you just bang, you fix it, okay? That you can't go around with. The path is through it. In other words, there's a grieving period we all got to go through, and we're going to go through it differently. Some of us will become more extroverted, some will become more introverted, some are going to talk more, some are going to talk less. We need to accept that from anyone. But in all cases, please be comfortable asking for help. I need your help. Okay. And by the way, it could be with the kids. You're going through some time or whatever, and it's a great way to start a conversation with anybody. When you start a conversation with anybody, okay, and you say, for example, it could be with your partner. Say, honey, I need your help. Right off the bat, they're going to go, oh, okay, all right. And then you start sharing, okay? And it could be about anything, okay? So it's a tremendous conversation starter. And of course, also, how can I help, all right? So as opposed to, is there anything I can do to help you? See, is there anything I can do to help? I mean, it's positive, it's nice, but the person might probably say, oh, no, it's okay, I got it under control, as opposed to, what is it I can do to help? All right? The question you're asking is different. And I might say, oh, well, since you asked, well, how about if you did that? You see that? So that's the difference. Now, grief is not something to be endured or ignored. It is a process to be experienced. That's why ultimately, to get to acceptance, you want to be making some choices. And that's what I'm going to help you do. Because once you're making choices, then you're out of the enduring part. Okay? You're choosing as opposed to enduring. You move through it in your own time, at your own pace, right? Your own squiggle. Grieving can be difficult for some of us, easier than others, as we talked before. And healthy grieving is not done alone, ideally. So again, remember, I need your help. How can I help? It's usually better, okay, when someone is there with us. So taking care of ourselves after a loss, whatever that loss may be, correct? So obviously we need to stay in shape physically. Again, depending on your situation, you choose, okay? So some are into jogging, some are not. Some walking, lifting, aerobics, stretching, huh? Like be in movement. You got that? The key is being in movement. And whatever that is, then you do it according to your context and so on and so forth, okay? And I have no need to convince you that eating well will help you, right? Because eating well will help you stay energized and stay focused and concentrated and so on. If you don't, well, you might start feeling sluggish and so on. You'll have a hard time concentrating. Mental care can include meditating, listening to a documentary, doing crossword puzzles, reading good books, watching a movie, learning a new craft, watching TV, YouTube, etc., 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 etc. Okay? So all these type of things here that you can choose from, I'm just going to give you some quick ways to tap into those, okay? Because everything is different for someone else. The catch is, see, when we are actually in a grieving state and we're feeling like down and out and we're discouraged and we're this or that, while we're in that emotion, we're probably not going to think of all these great things to do, okay? So we got to find a way to take a time out of that and start tapping in and start making some choices. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and it's pretty straightforward, okay? Emotional care can include talking with a close friend, journaling, listening to relaxing music, walking in the woods, watching humorous videos, okay? So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of nice, simple stuff that you can put on your sheet of paper. And of course, spiritual care can include prayer, meditation, yoga, reading inspirational books, attending online religious services, singing, whatever, okay? What's the present situation? Okay, so when dealing with a loss, we find ourselves in an unexpected, never experienced situation. Now, that's not the case for anybody, okay? In some cases, we actually could have planned for it, all right? But if it's unexpected, it's a little harder. We have little control over what is happening. See, that's the catch. We don't have control over the reality, okay? We only have the control of what we can do with it, okay? Our job routine may have been changed significantly if that's the case, right? If it may not be the case, if it's not a job loss, okay? Of course, the future is uncertain. Uncertainty creates tons of stress in us, right? Okay, we become very volatile, we become anxious, and so on and so forth. So we need to focus on what is it that we are sure of. And what is it that we're sure of? Well, we can be sure of what is it that we can do and what is it that we can't do, okay? And you need to tap into your controllables. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in your uncontrollables unconsciously, and that's going to put you in a situation where you're feeling out of control because you're going to be enduring the reality as opposed to choosing what you can do according to that reality, okay? And usually our worries are real and hard and to simply forget, okay? Leonardo Buscaglia, nice Italian name, eh? They called him Dr. Love, a university professor in California. He's deceased. I think he died in 2009 or whatever. I had the good fortune of listening to him in the early 1980s live in Toronto. He came over to Toronto and so on, and he spoke about how we tend to worry. And of course, he's Italian. He says, you know, my mom, she always used to worry about everything and everything, and this and this and that. And he has a wonderful, and I still remember one of his quotes. He says, worrying will not remove the pain of tomorrow. It will only remove the joy of today. Isn't that amazing? So it's okay to worry, but less is better, okay? We can be preoccupied, but let's find a way to put ourselves in choosing mode so we can be in the action. We're in movement towards our objectives, because we can worry till we're blue in the face, and guess what? It will not change the reality, right? It will not change what's going to happen tomorrow. It'll just bugger up the joy of that we could be experiencing today if we allow ourselves to continue to worry. Now, we do have control, okay? We do have control over stuff, so we don't have control over the reality, all right? But we do have control over what's happening in our brain, and self-awareness is the key. So I created a metaphor that's helped me for years and years and years, okay? I'll share with you how to tap into it, okay? So that whenever, because we all have, every single one of us, me included, realities in our life that sometimes are tough to make it through, okay? It could be business related, financially related, health related. It could have to do with a death or whatever, okay? You name it, we all have them. We've had them before COVID, and we're going to have them after, okay? So I developed a metaphor, and I learned, I not being the youngest guy, by the way, all right? I'm not a young pup, all right? I learned many, many years ago that it's no use fighting with reality, okay? Because reality will usually win that battle, all right? So I said, I got to find a way to adapt myself with that reality that I have to face in line with my objectives. And that's where I developed the metaphor of dancing with reality. Let me explain to you what I mean by that metaphor of dancing with reality. First of all, when I refer to dancing with reality, I do not want to, in any which way, shape, or form, minimize whatever reality that you're facing that could be extremely, extremely difficult. Absolutely not. The reason I chose dancing is for the following reason. Number one, it's to find a way to go with the reality. In other words, to adapt with it. You can fight it all you want. You're not going to win that one. So it means with. Okay, so it could be, so dancing is what? With another person, or it could be with many other people together, right? Or it could be on your own. All right. So that's why I choose dancing. The other reason I chose dancing, because dancing involves having access to hundreds of thousands of different dances. In other words, having access to all different possibilities for me to be able to deal with my reality. In addition, I could actually create a brand new dance. So I could actually become creative to be able to dance with the reality that I may have to be dancing with at that particular time. And we've seen a lot of that happening, haven't we, over the last few months, where people have become extremely, extremely creative, right? Because of the reality that they have to face. So they have created brand new dances. The other aspect about dancing is that it involves movement. you're actually doing something when you're dancing. You're moving, okay? And when you're moving, in other words, when you're in the action of doing something in line with your objective, that helps you make it through whatever process you're going through, including the grieving process. When you are in inaction, okay, that's where it becomes much, 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 much tougher, because our brain, by the way, will tend to always think of the negative parts, okay? That fight or flight, the primitive brain, well, that's our go-to, okay? That's like the default that our brain always goes to. So we let that wander, it always starts creating the worst case scenarios, the catastrophes, and so on and so forth. While on the other hand, if you're in the action, while you're in movement, i.e. dancing, guess what? You are going to be able to not fall into that trap, and a lot of the anxiety will go away and help you through the grieving process. The other aspect is that it involves usually some music. Music is extremely therapeutic, okay? It can help us through any type of situation. And lastly, dancing has a level of pleasure automatically related to it. And that is so, so key to make it through any situation, especially a grieving process. We must find a way to continue to have some pleasure through it, okay? Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make it through, gang, okay? So here's the definition of being resilient. This is the official definition, okay? The ability to succeed, live, and develop in a positive way in the face of stress or adversity that would normally involve the real possibility of a negative outcome. Now, first of all, you don't have to remember that definition. There's no exam at the end of the webinar. But I figured that my definition, my way, my metaphor, I think speaks to exactly the same thing, but it's a lot easier to, and I think it paints a nicer picture. And that is, when we're in a tough situation, a tough reality, well, let's find a way to dance with it. So what I do is when I'm in a situation, and if we're talking about loss or grieving or whatever in a situation, then I just say to myself, okay, Giovanni, how can you dance with this here, all right? And I'm gonna show you how you then start tapping into your resilience resources, okay? So how does resilience work? Well, we have a reality. Now we got COVID-19 here, but it doesn't have to be COVID-19. It could be any realities, okay? So we have certain realities that might be difficult that we need to make it through, okay? We need to tap into our resilience strategies, which is we got to find a way to tap into the resilience resources that we all have, by the way. It's just that sometimes we feel as if we've lost them when we're in either a grieving stage or going through a very tough period. And if we do, guess what? We will have a positive outcome that comes out of it. If we don't, right? And if we don't tap into our resilience resources, i.e. put into practice our resilience strategies, we will have a negative outcome. Now, you will notice we're going to stay on this slide for a while, okay? So we're not going to go ahead with the rest of the PowerPoint. I'm going to go through it after, okay? So don't be surprised if we stay on this slide, but have your pen ready. I already give you a couple of things, right? I need your help. You need to choose. So here's the first important thing that you need to do to help yourself out of any tough reality, okay? And I refer to the metaphor as shutting your faucet, shutting the faucet. What do I mean by that? Well, let's pretend things are going well. You're having a good day. You come home at night and you figure, okay, I'm going to get out of my work clothes or whatever. I'm going to get into my Lululemons. I'm going to get comfortable and so on. So you go into the washroom to kind of freshen up. And when you get to the washroom, what's waiting for you in the washroom? Well, there's a water damage. There's at least 3 inches of water on your bathroom floor. Okay, so now that creates a lot of stress in you. So you automatically start figure, oh, I got to do something about it. I got to do, because you're into your fight or flee, right? Mechanism. Your brain is automatically reacting. So you take out the towels, you take out the shop vac, you take out the mop, you dry the whole floor up, the whole kit and caboodle. So you're feeling better now. Well, guess what? 45 seconds later, there's still water on your bathroom floor, and you're looking around and, well, what's happening over here? Okay, so you look around and you notice that you forgot the faucet open. The sink is clogged and the water is overflowing from your sink. If I were to ask you, what's the most important thing to do if you were in that situation? Well, you're going to say to me, Giovanni, you got to shut the faucet, man. Absolutely. You see, if you don't shut the faucet, you will be continuing to put energy, time, and effort to drying up your floor, but it will continue to get wet. So you will ultimately be exhausted, depressed, discouraged, overwhelmed, and the whole kit and caboodle, everything that's negative, all because of one thing, which is you did not shut the faucet. Shutting the faucet in psychology is referred to as becoming conscious, as to becoming self-aware. And the way to do it for a human being is very, very simple, gang. Super simple. This is what you do. So you're in a tough reality. You're feeling like really, really tough. And when you figure, I want to be able to get out of this. All right. So before you start deciding what to do, you got to shut your faucet and become self-aware and become conscious. So what you do is very simple. All you do is you say your name out loud and take 2 beautiful, wonderful deep breaths, and you slowly exhale. So in my case, what would that be? It would be Giovanni. And then I would inhale from the nose. Always inhale from the nose slowly, 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 slowly. Fill your diaphragm in your lungs. You keep it about 3 seconds, and you slowly, slowly exhale, which in total takes about between 8 and 10 seconds. You take 2 deep breaths. So you see, when you've done that, what you've done by saying your name out loud, what you've done is you've stopped the negative stories that are going on in your head that are creating all kinds of tough, very tough emotions that you're feeling. And the reason you're taking the 2 deep breaths is because you want to oxygenate your body, and you want to slow down your cardiac rhythm. Okay. Once you've done that, now that you shut the faucet, then you're going to be able to tap into and connect with your resilience resources. And the way you do it is simple. All you do is ask your brain questions, because your brain is listening now. When you say your name, what your brain does, it just stops saying whatever it says, and it says, okay, what is it that you would like, Giovanni? That's what it says to me. To you, it would say, what is it that you would like, Peter, or whatever your name is. Okay. All right. So then I would say, okay, what's my objective? What is it that I want to achieve in this particular situation? What is it that I want to have happen? Well, I just finished this, and I lost, and I'm feeling sad. And then you ask yourself this, what is it that I could do to help myself? Now, you can do it with someone, right? So you can have someone help you, or you can say, okay, what is it I can do? Oh, maybe I can go ask my colleague. I'm just going to maybe have a coffee with him or her, and that'll help. So automatically what you're doing is you're tapping into your resilience resources, as opposed to staying in that terrible, terrible state. But you must shut your faucet first, and that's what you do. And then you start choosing what you're going to do. And you're going to be choosing what you can control versus what you cannot control. That's why you need to shut the faucet, okay? Otherwise, you might be having the uncontrollables continue to have you endure the situation that is very, very, very unpleasant for you, okay? And when you choose, then you're going to do, which means you're going to be in action. You're going to actually be in the action of doing something, and that is extremely, extremely therapeutic, as opposed to inaction. What all that does, it just kind of gets your brain thinking of all the negative stuff. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to write, I created an acronym with the word DOSE, D-O-S-C, for you to secrete 4 wonderful happiness hormones every day. Because when we're grieving and so on, we're secreting tons and tons of cortisol and adrenaline, okay? It's kind of the flip side of happiness, all right? Okay, but we gotta make it through, all right? So here's what you can do. And by you secreting these 4 hormones every day, not only will it help you through any situation, it'll actually create a situation where you might prevent things from getting really, really tough for you, okay? So I want you to write the word DOSE vertically, okay? On your sheet, I want you to write the word DOSE, D-O-S-E. So D, capital O under the D, capital S under the O, capital E under the S. The D stands for dopamine, D-O-P-A-M-I-N-E. And I will explain to you how to secrete these hormones every day. And this is great. Keep it shared with people that you can be doing them a big favor if they do that every day also. O is for oxytocin, O-X-Y-T-O-C-I-N. S is for serotonin, S-E-R-O-T-O-N-I-N. And E is for endorphins, E-N-D-O-R-P-H-I-N-S. You're going to see when I share this with you and we go on with the rest of the PowerPoint, how just doing this every single day, they take like maybe 5-10 minutes every day to do this. It's going to do all the things that are written in the rest of the PowerPoint presentation is like another 15 slides. So let's deal with dopamine. Dopamine is the pleasure hormone. So every day, give yourself a high five and celebrate for something you've accomplished today. There's no such thing that a day that has gone by that you haven't accomplished anything. Even if it's just all you did is you returned a phone call that you had to return, or you prepared breakfast for someone. There's no such thing as a day that goes by that you didn't accomplish anything. So you congratulate yourself for that and give yourself a big bravo. And while you're at it, you may want to do it for someone else. Okay, that will secrete dopamine in you. If you don't do that, you will only remember what you did not do well today, what you did wrong, what you may have forgotten to do, maybe something you made a mistake. It's only gonna, your brain is only gonna think of the negative stuff all the time, right? So you make sure every single day, and by the way, every day you've accomplished something. It's impossible that you didn't, okay? O is for oxytocin. So that's the tenderness and kindness hormone. So this in grieving can be great. So think of the people that you love, but think of the wonderful memories and the good that, and all the love that you have for them and they have for you. Or you may have, if you have a pet, if you pet your pet, by the way, you know, when you pet, your dog or your cat, well, you're automatically secreting oxytocin. Or you may want to look at a picture that's dear to your heart and it brings back wonderful memories. Or you might want to think of your partner or your kids or whatever. That will secrete for you oxytocin. Or any act of kindness that you may do in any one particular day will secrete oxytocin in you. Okay? Then we have serotonin. That's your good humor hormone. Practice gratitude once a day. Take the time to appreciate and thank life. Thank something that in your life for that day. And while you're at it, you might as well thank someone too. Gratitude, okay? Gratitude is a tremendous antidote to stress and anxiety and sadness and so on, okay? And last but not least, endorphins, right? So remember I told you if you're in the action of doing something, it's great. Well, that's what endorphins do. It's the happiness hormone. Move, walk, run, dance, laugh, please listen. It's important to laugh. You're allowed to laugh. It's good for us. No matter the situation, laugh. When my mom going to chemotherapy, I mean, that could have been very sad, but we would laugh. I would make her laugh. And she would say, Jova, ma, you know. And I said, ma. And that would help her. That would help her because it was a little tough. You know, she'd be walking with the stroller a bit. It would be a little difficult. And just by making her laugh, she got more energy and we would laugh, even though, where was she going? She was going for some chemo. But guess what? The fact that she laughed before and so on, well, made it easier for get to the chemo. And then once the chemo was over, well, we talk about stuff or some old memories. Remember this, mom? Remember that? And then I'd also make her laugh about other things and so on and so forth. Okay. And of course, it helped her, but it also helped me through the situation. There's your dose of daily happiness hormones, gang: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Okay. What I also want you to do is tap into music. Okay, music is very therapeutic. It's powerful. So please, it's available to us 24/7. Of course, if you can, if you're on a call or whatever, you may not have to do. But please, music. You choose it. By the way, if you're feeling very, very sad, sometimes picking a sad song, but a sad song that you like, can be amazing. That will secrete tons of oxytocin in you, and it'll help you vent. It'll help you actually get through the grief and help you through. Okay, so a sad, but one that you like, because in other words, there's a level of pleasure associated with that, and it just lets you let it all out, and it lets you vent. So music is amazing, gang. Okay, all right. And then the other thing, the last but not least, buddy up. Like, for example, if it's the death of a lost one, for example, in my case, my mom, and we're going through a tough time. Well, I made my mom and my dad my buddies. And which means whenever I would be going through a tough situation, I think of what is it they would have told me to do, or what is it they would have done, because they proved to be extremely, extremely resilient as human beings, because they immigrated here to Canada from Italy right after the war with literally just a suitcase and a few dollars in their pocket. And at the time when they immigrated in 1950, there was no Medicare, there were no social programs. I mean, there was no subway, none of that stuff. And they made it through, and I never heard them complain. Doesn't mean they didn't, but I never heard them. They always find a way for us to what? To dance with the reality and to have pleasure and to have fun and so on. So when I'm having a bit of a tough, I buddy up with them. And so you choose who you want. It could be a celebrity. It could be someone in history that you studied that is, for you, seems to be a very resilient person. So that sometimes you're feeling down and out. All you got to do is just, again, you say your name out loud. You take your 2 deep breaths so you're self-aware. And then you can say, okay, what would so-and-so have advised me to do? It could be a mentor that you have, a coach that you may have had in the past. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to get their permission. You just decide that they're going to be your buddy that you have access to 24/7, no matter what, that can help you through any situation. And I know when I was saying, what would my mom say today? That she would probably say, listen, you make sure you take care of yourself, take care of the kids and so on. Things are going to be okay. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. Okay. So those are my things I wanted to share with you. And remember that action is the way to go and not inaction. And now we're going to complete the rest of the PowerPoint. Okay, and you'll see how everything falls into place. Okay, so I talked about deep breathing. Isn't that what I talked to you about? Taking a time out, boom, so you're becoming conscious, you're shutting the faucet. Okay, you're going to be automatically tapping into some positive thinking because you're shutting the faucet, and you're going to be choosing what to do based on your objectives. And of course, you're going to make choices according to what you need to be also physically healthy. Diaphragm breathing. So when you take those 2 deep breaths, that's exactly what you're doing. You're breathing and you're filling your diaphragm in your lungs. You're keeping it about 3 seconds, and you slowly, slowly exhale from your mouth. It's the same type of breathing for those of you that do meditation. I'm not sure if you do. And meditation is just the difference between what I'm showing you in meditation is that meditation is usually you do it for at least 5 or 10 minutes so that you're getting into the situation and you're doing some mindfulness, and you're staying into the moment, and you're appreciating every single part of that moment. Stop what you're doing and do something completely unrelated, right? So switch it up, gang. Okay, switch it up. But the way to switch it up, shut your faucet first, right? And then you say, okay, let me go do this, let me do that. Do you see in all of these cases, you're actually doing something. You're in action. That's what's great, okay? Laughter, you're gonna do that, right? That's part of your endorphins, right? That's the E in the word dose, which means that physically it will translate in you sleeping much better. You're going to be eating properly, and it will encourage you to do some form of exercise. Now we need to stay positive. Why? Because our brain automatically thinks of the negative stuff. It's our go-to. All right, it's our default. You can't stop it from happening. Our brain does it automatically, because it's our fight or flight syndrome for us to survive. So when you're feeling that and it's creating those negative emotions, that's your sign that you need to shut that faucet. So say your name out loud, take 2 beautiful deep breaths, okay? And then start tapping into what your objectives, okay? And what is that would make you feel better? And you just ask your question to your brain. Now you see how this works? Remember when you were in high school and the teacher's teaching, and if one of the students is not paying attention, the teacher notices the student. Let's pretend the student's name is Giovanni. And the teacher says, and Giovanni is not paying attention. The teacher goes, Giovanni. As soon as the teacher goes, Giovanni, what does Giovanni do? He stops. He stops doing whatever he's doing, and he now is listening to the teacher. Well, see, that's the same premise when you say your name out loud to yourself. Not loudly, just out loud. Your brain stops all the negative stuff that's going on, and now it says, okay, what is it that you would like? So now you can start asking it the questions that are in line with your objective, which is going to have you reframe your negative thoughts. Okay, so you're going to be thinking more on the positive part because you are focusing on your objective. You're going to be shifting to expressing your feelings in the presence of someone who cares, and you're going to realize you're going through the grieving process. So you're going to now going through it, but you're choosing what to do and not enduring. That is the key. So instead of saying thoughts like I'm so stressed, okay, if you say that, then it's just going to get you more. So there are things I can do to help, like exercise and playing music. I'm so sad and exhausted. I don't know how I'll go on. See, that's those negative default thoughts that our brain goes to. But if you shut the faucet, you say your name out loud, take a couple of deep breaths and say, okay, I'm going to focus on what I can control, not on what I cannot control, and what's my objective. Then chances are you can change your thoughts to something more like this. I am sad and tired, and I am preoccupied, but I need to shift to occupying myself with something. You're going to be doing something, choosing. You're going to be in the action as opposed to inaction. Same thing when I feel helpless in this situation. And the same thing is the worst will happen. Of course, the worst will happen if you don't do anything about it. It could, yes. But if you take control, you shut the faucet, the worst will not happen, gang. I guarantee you. Okay? So you're going to automatically start having a positive outlook on stuff. By practicing your dose every day, you're going to be grateful, right? That's going to be beautiful. You're going to list some of the personal benefits of having known the person, right? For example, I always think of all the wonderful things I felt with my mom. If, of course, we're talking about a situation of loss when it comes to death, but it could be loss of something else, okay? So here we have COVID, but let's take any reality, all right? The COVID could bring some personal loss, isolation, feeling helpless, and the fears of personal family health. If you put into practice the stuff that we just shared, well, you're going to have effective coping strategies, which means you're going to be doing some deep breathing. You're going to take your time out, right? You're going to be self-aware. You shut the faucet. You're automatically going to be thinking more positively. You're going to be active. You're going to be doing something. You are going to be choosing what is it that you can control. And your outcome will be that you're going to be able to cope with the situation, i.e. you're dancing with the reality, and you're able to think and feel clearly, and you're going to be able to get to that level of acceptance, if we're talking to loss, where you're adjusting back. You are finding the way to dance with your reality. The number one thing we could do with our kids, for example, or anyone else, I already mentioned it to you at the beginning, and that is, let's listen. Listen, 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 listen. Ask questions, and listen. No judgment. They're allowed to feel the way they feel. They could be going through the situation and feeling differently than what we do. If we tell people, don't worry about it, okay, well, they are worried about it, okay, and just say, oh, it's nothing. Well, for them, it is something. So when you say that, what you might be doing is stopping future conversations, because they're not going to want to come and speak to you, because you're going to say to them, well, it's nothing. So what you need to do is just shut up, listen, ask questions. How can I help? What if you did this? What is it you would like to have happen? Just questions, listen, listen. And together, you're going to work out some kind of actions that they are feeling comfortable with in choosing to be able to make it through any type of situation. See the importance of listening and being empathetic. Empathetic means we're listening with zero judgment. We're going to enlist our children as partners. We're going to start with those famous 4 words. I need your help. You see that? I need your help. Boom. And then together you're working towards, as partners, towards a common objective together. See how that all gets together? We need to be honest while still instilling hope, right? So we're going to want to create an ongoing connection. Well, and of course, with technology today, we can create it all kinds of different ways, whether it's FaceTime, whether it's Zooms. Please use the phone. Also, the phone, talking to someone, hearing their voice also is great, and so on. So the more we can together work towards a common objective, the better it's going to be for us to make it through any kind of situation, especially a grieving process. So we need to accommodate to allow grieving to unfold. So we want, if you're living with the family, establish communication norms that meet everybody's needs, right? So again, start the conversation. What I need your help. What if we did this way? What is it that you think could work, and so on. If you're living alone, please stay connected, stay engaged with loved ones and friends and colleagues. Very, very important. Isolation can be very, very, very harmful. Okay. Now, the odd time it's fine, but not for a prolonged period. And of course, if we're living with friends or housemates in cramped quarters, well, let's have a meeting. Let's discuss how we're going to make this work, right? We need each other's help, and come up with a game plan for everybody to be able to get their needs satisfied. We gotta laugh. Gotta laugh, gang. All right? It's therapeutic no matter what. Let's laugh. Okay? Find a reason to laugh. Okay? A joke, something on YouTube that's funny. I receive all kinds of stuff from my friends on YouTube, so that's funny. It's very, very therapeutic. It's very, very good. So worrying is not going to help, but please go ask for help, especially with finances. Please go see an expert, go see someone, depending on your situation, how serious it is or whatever. We all need someone to help us through it. So we had come up with a game plan. So we put ourselves in a situation that we're choosing what to do based on our situation. And we may have to make some very, very tough, difficult choices, but you're better off making the difficult choices than having the choices made for you if you do not take it into control. Your name, say your name out loud, take a couple of deep breaths and say, okay, I need to find a way to manage my finance within your thing. So you make the decisions, and and definitely in some situations, you may have to go see your financial planner or your counselor or whatever to help you through the situation, to adjust stuff and make it through, because it could be very, very difficult. okay? So seek trusted advisors. When it comes to the media, okay, well, don't go bananas and listen to everything. It tends to repeating itself. All I'm saying to you, please, go with media that's trusted, okay? There's too much stuff in the internet or whatever. So pick one, maximum two stations that are 100% credible, that are responsible. Listen to them, and chances are you're not going to be misled. Mental health, everything that I've showed you is going to help you grieve until acceptance. You're going to show gratitude every single day, right? That's your serotonin. I mentioned to you that you will be receiving an email for an online survey over the next 24 hours. And we have about 2 minutes left. So I'm going to say to you, thank you so much for those that will be leaving. And if there's some people hanging around and want to throw me some questions, I'm going to still stick around for a couple of minutes. And if there are no other questions, I will then put an end to the webinar. And I sincerely hope you're walking away with some good, nice value in line with today's subject. Take care, gang. Allow me to give you a virtual hug and secrete some oxytocin in you. And as they say in Italy, arrivederci.